Ikenna, the boy who gave his shoes to the ghost. In the forgotten village of Elele, where stories whispered through the wind and elders warned children never to stray near the forest's edge, lived a barefoot boy named Ikenna. He was only 9, with a smile too wide for the sorrow he carried, and eyes that held a quiet kind of wisdom far beyond his years. Every morning before the sun kissed the earth, Ikenna would polish a pair of old, oversized shoes until they shone like black mirrors. But he never wore them. Instead, he walked barefoot through red dust and thorny paths, holding the shoes carefully in his arms like a sacred gift. People would shake their heads in confusion. "Ikenna, why do you carry shoes you never wear?" they'd ask. And he'd always smile softly and say, "Because someone else needs them more than I do." They thought it was just the imagination of a lonely boy, until one night of earthquake. That night, thunder shook the sky without warning, and lightning lit up the village like a revelation. The wind carried strange whispers, and by morning, a mansion, gleaming white, carved with ancient symbols and humming with quiet power, stood where his father's old hut lay. It was the most beautiful thing the Elele people have ever seen, the most beautiful house ever. But no one knew how the new mansion got there. How the mansion erupted overnight in his father's compound. But Ikenna knew, because the ghost he gave his shoes had returned. This is not just a story. It is a mystery, a lesson in humanity, a tale of love stronger than death. Candle, welcome to IDEKA African Folktales, where kindness never goes unnoticed, and where the deeds of the legends live on. In Elele, everyone avoid OPI forest, but 9-year-old Ikenna walked into it barefoot every day, holding his oversized pairs of shoes in his hands. He never wore them, but he made sure they were neat and shining. When asked why, he'd smile and told stories of wonders that happened in the forest with smiles on his face, but no one believed his story. Ikenna was the only son of his parent, his mother, a young widow who was yet to recover from the shock of the sudden death of her husband. They lived in an abandoned leaking hut because his father's brother would not allow them to share the main house with them. Ikenna was 9, skinny, bright-eyed, with a smile that looked like it belonged to someone who knew a secret. Every morning before dawn, Ikenna walked through the village square barefoot, carrying a pair of polished black leather shoes under his arm. They were too big for his feet. The villagers assumed he'd been given them by a missionary or plucked them from a rubbish heap, but no one ever saw him wear them. "Ikenna, come," Mama IDEKA called one day. "Why do you carry shoes on your hands every day and not wear them?" she asked, peering through her market stall of dried peppers. "Because someone else needs them more," he replied simply and ran along. The people at her shop bursted into a loud laugh. They laughed at him. The village elders called him a dreamer. The children called him the mad boy with ghost shoes. But still, every afternoon after the chores were done and the heat dulled to a golden haze, Ikenna would disappear into the forest that bordered Elele, the forest no one dared to enter. The elders told stories of that forest, of spirits with cracked faces and eyes like moons, of voices that lured children with lullabies. But Ikenna didn't fear it. To him the forest smelled like home, like wet leaves and secrets. He followed a path no one else could see, winding through the trees until he reached an old, forgotten clearing, where a massive silk cotton tree stood like a guardian of lost stories. That's where he met her. She had no name, no shoes, no voice, just a white dress stained with earth and a sadness that clung to her like fog. She was pale and flickering like a candle in wind. A ghost, but not the kind that frightened. He had found her one evening, weeping silently beside the roots of the silk cotton tree. Her feet were bruised. Her toes were bleeding. "What is the matter with your legs?" Ken asked. "They ached me," the ghost replied, "and I have far more distance to travel." "Take mine, wear this shoes," Ikenna had said, offering his shoes. The ghost had stared at him wide-eyed. "You mean it?" she asked, very surprised that humans can lend to a ghost and not be scared. "They're not mine anyway. I found them by the river. Maybe they were meant for you." And she had smiled. Faint. Like dew on morning grass. She took the shoes and walked away. "Wait for me," she said before disappearing. Ikenna waited for hours and she came as promised. When she returned, the shoes looked dusty and smeared with mud as if it was used to made a journey of 100 years. Thank you. Thank you. The thorn did not tear on my foot today," she said, handing over the dirty shoes to Ikenna. From that day, Ikenna came every afternoon into the forest with the shoes. He made sure they were clean and polished. He carried them like gold every afternoon and ran as if he was going for an errand. The villagers who saw him mocked and laughed at him. His name has become a joke in every household. "Put on your sandals, Jor. Will you be like Ikenna too?" Mothers jested, telling their children, always whenever they see them running or walking without wearing their sandals or holding them on their hands. Ikenna was always seen with his shoes and never seen wearing them. In the forest, Ikenna and the ghost never spoke much. She couldn't. But they sat. They laughed. They listened to the rustle of trees and watched birds vanish into dusk. But she always wore the shoes whether she had places to go or not. But one thing remained mystery to Ikenna. Whether she left with the shoes or sat with him wearing them, the shoes never remained the same each time they touched her legs. It must be smeared heavily with mud and dirt, and Ikenna would always wash them before bringing them next time. Most times, the ghost visited Ikenna in their home, but it was invisible, and though her steps left no mark in the dirt, Ikenna swore he could hear her beside him. Could feel her. Sometimes he'd hold out his hand and something cold, but kind, would rest in his palm. His mother had begun to worry. "Ikenna, why are your feet always so red and raw?" she asked one evening, kneeling to touch his bruised heels. But Ikenna only smiled, a tired, gentle smile, and said softly, "Because I gave the shoes to someone who needed them more." She didn't understand. No one in the village did. The forest, everyone knew, was cursed. Dark things lived there. No child was allowed near it, not even to fetch firewood. But every day Ikenna disappeared into its shadows, barefoot, holding the shoes in his hands like a sacred treasure. He would return at dusk, his feet bleeding, his lips dry, but his eyes always searching. Then one day something changed. Ikenna came home weeping. "She didn't come," he whispered, curling up beside his mother. "She always comes." He spoke of a girl in a white dress who would meet him by the ancient tree deep inside the forest. A girl no one had seen. A girl no one believed was real. His mother began to fear for her son's mind. She boiled herbs and gave him bitter roots to cool his head. "It's fever," she told the neighbors. "He's only seeing things." But the next day Ikenna went back. Still barefoot. Still carrying the shoes. Still waiting. He waited for hours, but there was no flicker of white dress in the trees, no cold hand in his, no voice in the wind, only silence and loneliness. That evening he returned home crying again. But this time he didn't tell his mother. He just went to bed holding the shoes. The next day he left early again. This time he brought a small bowl of water and soap to clean the shoes, his ritual of hope. He scrubbed them carefully beneath the old tree, watching the forest for any sign of her. Still she did not come. As the sun fell and the shadows thickened, Ikenna stayed. He waited until the darkness swallowed everything, and eventually he fell asleep on the forest floor. Back in the village, his mother began to panic. It was midnight. Her son had not returned. She ran from one compound to another, waking neighbors, calling his name. "Ikenna! Ikenna!" But the forest remained silent. Deep in the forest, Ikenna shivered in his sleep. Then a cold hand brushed across his face. Ikenna jolted awake, a sharp cry ripping from his throat. His chest rose and fell in fast, panicked breaths. The air was thick. The forest loomed around him like a living thing,
its branches curled like claws above his head. He turned in every direction. Eyes, dozens of them, glowing faintly, staring, blinking in the dark, watching him from every crack in the tree bark, from behind rocks, from the dense underbrush. But there were no bodies, no faces, just the unbearable weight of being seen. He swallowed hard, his throat dry and tight. I was waiting, he stammered, clutching the shoes to his chest. I was waiting to wash them. For her. His voice trembled like a leaf in the wind. Then came a voice. Come, male. She left. The words floated in the air like mist, quiet but heavy, too heavy for a child's heart. Ikenna froze. Who are you? He asked, almost in a whisper. Another voice answered, this one softer, older, almost sad. We are the ones she called. The forest fell into silence again. Even the insects paused. Even the wind listened. She said the shoes had taken her far enough, the voice continued. She's gone now, but she sent us to give you something. To thank you. From the darkness a figure moved. It did not walk. It simply appeared, just beyond Ikenna's reach. Shadow without shape. Form without flesh. It bent down and placed a small wooden box at Ikenna's feet. Break it when you reach your home, the first voice said. And do not fear. We will walk beside you. Ikenna stared at the box, then back into the woods. The eyes were still there, watching, waiting, but somehow, he wasn't afraid anymore. He picked up the box, hugged the box to his chest and stepped forward. And though no one would believe it, he was not alone. They walked with him, silent guardians of the forest. He couldn't see them, but he felt them. A soft breeze at his back, a rustle where no leaves moved, the faintest hum in the air. Past the twisted roots that reached like fingers. Past the stone with the crack that bled red sap. Past the tree where he had first met her. They walked until he saw it. The outline of his father's broken hut. Its roof caved in from last year's rain, its door hanging crooked. The moon was full overhead, bathing everything in silver light. Ikenna stepped into the clearing. And there, right there, he knelt, placed the wooden box on the ground and broke it open. And the earth answered. A tremor rolled through the compound. The ground cracked beneath him, splitting with a low rumble. But from the cracks came light. Golden, bright, alive. From that light, the impossible happened. The broken hut shook. Its roof lifted. Its walls stretched. And before Ikenna's eyes, a mansion grew from the soil like a flower after the rain. White, towering, beautiful, with windows that glowed from within and walls as smooth as marble. Trees shot up on either side, full of ripe, glowing fruit. Servants appeared, real ones, clothed in fine garments, bowing in reverence. A fountain began to bubble. Birds circled above, singing songs no one had ever heard. And in the grand courtyard, shoes of different colors and sizes. Hundreds of them, neatly arranged. Tall boots, delicate sandals, velvet slippers, shoes for princes, shoes for paupers, shoes that shimmered with something not quite of this world. Ikenna stood in silence, bathed in the glow of what had just become his home. Behind him the forest watched. And then, it was gone. Silent again. Ikenna had returned. But not the same. The next morning the village erupted. People ran from every corner of Elele. Children screamed. Women clutched their wrappers. Men stood frozen, mouths agape. How? Who built this? What kind of magic is this? They demanded answers. They cried out for meaning. But Ikenna said nothing. Not to them. That night he sat with his mother by the new fire in their new home, surrounded by walls of gold and stories untold. He leaned in and whispered in her ear. It was her. The girl in the forest, the ghost girl. I gave her my shoes. She said thank you. His mother held him tight, tears in her eyes. Not from fear, but from something deeper. Gratitude. Oh, love. And when the village came knocking, asking again and again, Ikenna only shook his head gently. "You will hear about it, but—" "Not yet," he said. "Not yet." A week passed. And then news came. The old hermit woman who lived on the edge of the forest had died. She had no family, no friends. The villagers had long forgotten she even existed. But out of duty they went to bury her. In the ruins of her hut, beneath a rotting mat, they found an old wooden box, crumbled, damp, and tied with cloth. Inside there were shoes, a pair of black ones, old but familiar, too big for a child. And under it, wrapped in worn paper, a child's drawing. It showed a boy with bare feet holding shoes on his hands, a girl in a white dress, a tree, and below it, written in faint, dusty Igbo, "Thank you for lending your shoes and walking with me." Ikenna saw it and cried out, "These are the shoes. These are my shoes." The truth could no longer hide. The ghost was real. The girl had once lived, forgotten, alone, until one barefoot boy offered her the only thing he had, the only thing she needed to be reunited with her people, Offates, e.g. to travel. She must borrow shoes from human to travel fast, but none one had ever looked her until a boy saw her and gave his own shoe, unasked. And she had returned his kindness. With everything. That day Ikenna finally told the villagers the full story. And they listened, mouths open, hearts quiet. Because this was no ordinary tale. It was a story of kindness, of loss, of miracles born from simple acts of love. And it all began with a pair of shoes. The real story: the hermit had been a child from generations ago. Lost during the war, her body never found, her spirit never at peace. Until Ikenna saw her without shoes, barefoot, walking into the forest and walking later with bleeding foot and smeared toes. He was moved with compassion. He had shoes that he wasn't using. She needed it, he thought to himself. So he ran home and brought the shoes and went into the forest. Surprisingly, he found her seated under the shade of a tree, nursing her bruised feet. "Take these shoes, you need them more than I do," Ikenna said to her. She looked up to him, took the shoes and smiled. Quickly, she wore them and the shoes fastened to her feet, well fitted like magic, and she disappeared. Ikenna was startled. He blinked his eyes fast to be sure he was not dreaming. Again she reappeared. The shoes still fastened to her feet but looked very dirty and smeared with mud as if it had been used for a 1,000-mile journey. She removed them and gave to Ikenna and said, "Thank you, I covered long miles today, it carried me far today and my feet did not hurt." The hermit was the ghost. She was abandoned for ages. All she needed was a little care and kindness to travel back and reunite with her people in the land of the spirit, but one little boy brought her what no one else would. Company, compassion, and a path forward. Ikenna. The hermit was given a befitting burial through the support of Ikenna and his mother. Out of the countless treasures the ghost blessed them with, he became a young billionaire and well respected. Years passed. Elele village changed. Children grew. Huts crumbled. Seasons danced and disappeared. And Ikenna, he grew too. He became a tall, handsome man. His face kind. His eyes distant. His silence deep, like the forest that once whispered his name. But he never wore shoes. Not once. Not even on his wedding day when his bride walked beside him in shining white Cinderella shoes. One of the numerous shoes that were found in the magic mansion, but Ikenna walked barefoot. Not even the day he buried his mother with trembling hands and a heart full of gratitude. Not even when strangers came from distant towns, offering him the finest pairs stitched from silk and gold. He would only smile and say, "Someone else needs them more." His mansion still stood, tall, more beautiful day by day, as if invisible beings came to polish it every night, shining beautiful, impossible. But behind it Ikenna built something else. A shed wide and open with no doors. Just shade and warmth and the smell of stew always cooking. There he fed people every day. Hungry men. Wandering women. Lost children. Anyone who needed a moment to sit, to rest, to feel seen. And on the wooden wall of that humble shed, a small plaque was nailed. The words carved into it were simple. Give what you can, even if it's only a pair of shoes. Especially if it's love. People began to understand. They came not just to eat but to leave things behind. Sandals, slippers, worn shoes, polished boots. Sometimes they left stories too, scratched into wood, whispered to the wind, written on folded scraps of cloth and tucked beneath pots. And something strange began to happen. Children who played around the shed would suddenly stop. "Did you hear that?" one would say. "What?" A laugh. A girl's laugh. Right beside me. Others swore they saw footprints in the dust near the tree behind the shed. 2 sets. One always barefoot. The other, small and always in polished black leather shoes. Sometimes the dust would swirl gently without wind. A leaf would fall upward. A pot would warm without fire. And in those moments, if you listened closely, the air would hum. A smile would float in the silence. Not a face. Not a sound. Just a feeling. A presence that said, "I see you. I remember you. Thank you." And though Ikenna never spoke of it again, not to his children nor to the crowd that gathered daily, he would sometimes stand at the edge of the shed at twilight, eyes fixed on the forest beyond. Watching. Waiting. And once, just once, a child asked him, "Uncle Ikenna, why don't you wear shoes?" He paused, then knelt down, smiled and whispered, "Because sometimes miracles don't walk in shoes." Thank you for watching. Remember, this is IDEKA African Folktales, where silence speaks louder than thunder, where love leaves footprints, and where no gift, however small, is ever forgotten. Please subscribe,